ဒီနေ့လွန်ခဲ့တဲ့ရက်နေ့ငယ်ကဟောလက်စာပြစ်တဲ့အစ္စရာခဏသုတ်တံဆက်လက်ပြီးတော့စာရွေးနဲ့လက်တွေနှစ်ခုပေါင်းစပ်ပြီးတော့ဟောပြဖို့ပါပဲဒီသုတ်ဟာယောဂီတွေအတွက်သိပြီးတော့အကျိုးများတဲ့အသုံးဝင်တဲ့သုတ်ပါဘာဖြစ်လို့လဲဆိုတော့နိဗ္ဗာန်ရောက်ကြောင်းအကျင့်တွေတူတူနဲ့ရှင်းရှင်းနဲ့ပြတော်မူပြီးတော့သိတာထင်ရှားတဲ့လောကီဥပမာလေးနဲ့မြတ်စွာဘုရားကမိန့်ကြားထားပါတယ်ဒီတော့ဒီတော့ကိုနိဗ္ဗာန်ရောက်ကြောင်းရင်ရထားကောင်းလို့ဒီလိုအမိတတ်လို့ရှိရင်သိစီလျော်ပါတယ်အဲ့ဒီတော့ဆက်လက်ပြီးတော့ဒီနေ့ဟောပါမယ်
နိဗ္ဗာန်ရောက်ကြောင်း
ရင်ရထားကောင်းပေါ့
ရင်ရထားကောင်းသူ့နာမည်ပါလေသူ့
အချရကဏသုတ္တ
အချရကဏ္ဍTonight's talk will be a continuation of the sutra on the Bhikkhu Deva. The sutra is particularly relevant to yogis because in it the Buddha outlined the path of practice for the Deva. He used the example or analogy of a chariot. And perhaps it might be appropriate to name the sutta as the sutta on the good vehicle that leads to Nibbana.
Yes, what Pierre Nataga Bilu Bikin Tana Bebu Beni Absent Yonay Bamale, Eddie Bikin Tana. တပည့်တော်ညွှန်ကြပါဗျာဆိုတာပေါ့လေရတ္တဖို့ပေါက်ရောက်တဲ့အထိတရားနိလန်းနေညွှန်ကြတော်မူပါလို့ဒီလိုဆိုလိုပါတယ်
If you can recall when the Bhikkhu Deva approached the Buddha, he asked the Buddha to show him the way to a heaven, a safe place. In fact, he was asking the Buddha to show him the path to arahantship, the uprooting of all kilesas.
ဒီခါမှာမြတ်စွာဘုရားကဒီနတ္တဟာအလွန်ကြီးကိုပဲကိလေသာတွေခေါင်းပါလိုတဲ့စန္ဒပြင်းပြတယ်ကိလေသာခေါင်းပါရေးအတွက်လည်းပဲတကယ်ကျင့်တဲ့နတ်သားပဲဆိုတာသိမြင်တော့သူရဲ့အခြေအနေဘယ်လိုနေတော့လို့ဆင်ခြင်ကြည့်တဲ့အခါမှာမိမိရဲ့သာသနာမှာယဟန်ဖြစ်ခံယူပြီးတော့အစ္ဆရတ္တဝိရိယဆိုတာပေါ့လေတကယ်ကိုလုံလဝိရိယထားပြီးတော့ကျင့်သုံးလို့တရားဓုမရသေးပဲနဲ့နတ်ပြည်မှာလာဖြစ်ရတယ်ဆိုတဲ့အကြောင်းသိမြင်တော်မူပါတယ်ပြီးတော့သူ့မှာလည်းပဲသီလရင်းနဲ့လည်းပြည့်စုံနေသေးတော့ဘယ်ကစတင်ပြီးတော့တရားပြရမယ်ဆိုတာမြတ်စွာဘုရားသိမြင်တော်မူပါတယ်
being impressed by this request of the Deva, the Buddha exclaimed or thought, "Well, this Deva is certainly very bent on uprooting the kilesas, on making the kilesas thinner and thinner. He is certainly very unusual Deva." And so the Buddha made use of his powers to look into his background and discovered that before he became a Deva, he had been a member of the Sangha, a bhikkhu, and was practicing very ardently for arahantship. But before he could actually attain his fervent goal, he died prematurely and landed up in Deva land. And at that point, the Buddha started to reflect or consider how he should instruct this unusual Deva. He again found that this Deva was still quite pure in his sila, in his morality, and as a result, the Buddha knew how to instruct him.
ဘုရားရှင်တို့မြေဒီမှာဘာဝနာတရားအမထုတ်ဘူးသေးတဲ့တပည့်အစ်စ်ပေါ့လေအဲ့ဒီအစ်စ်ကိုရှိဥစွာတီလကစပြီးတော့ဟောလီဟောတာရှိပါတယ်တီလကနေပြီးတော့နောက်စိတ်တည်ငြိမ်အောင်တမာတိလုပ်ငန်းတွေဟောပါတယ်အဲ့ဒီလိုတီလအခြေတည်ပြီးတော့တမာတိတရားတွေပွားဖို့ရာဟောတဲ့အခါကုသိုလ်ကအကုသိုလ်ကတို့ရဲ့ကျိုးပေးဟန်တွေ့ရတဲ့ဖြင့်ကောင်းရည်စာဆိုရင်ခါရမှာပဲဆိုတဲ့ကမ္မတက္ကတာတမာဒိဋ္ဌိအခြေခံအတိညာဏ်လေးပေါ့လေဖြောက်အောင်လည်းလုပ်ပေးလိမ့်ရှိပါတယ်ဆိုလိုတာကတော့ပထမသီလယူနောက်စိတ်တည်ငြိမ်လုပ်တဲ့နည်းတွေဟောကမ္မတက္ကတာတမာဒိဋ္ဌိလည်းဟောရှေ့ပိုင်းအကျင့်တွေကိုဟောလီဟောတာရှိပါတယ်အဲ့ဒီအချက်ဘုန်းကြီးတို့တော်တော်သတိထားမှာပါ
Usually the Buddha will start to talk on morality and then proceed in a progressive manner. When he is instructing someone who is quite a greenhorn in practice, who hasn't got any foundation or experience at all, he would start with sila and then proceed to samadhi, the development of tranquility meditation to calm the mind, to achieve one-pointedness and concentration of mind. And then he would talk about the view that regards karma as one's own property. That karma is the only real property that one truly possesses. This of course means that one should belief in the law of karma, that whatever bad deeds that one does, one will have to suffer their consequences. And whatever good deeds that are performed, one will be able to enjoy their corresponding benefits. This is this order of instruction given by the Buddha is something which all of us should bear in mind.
ထင်ရှားတဲ့ဥပမာလေးပြထားပါတယ်ပကြီးဆရာဟာပကြီးအတတ်တွေကိုသင်ပြတဲ့ဆရာဟာကျောင်းသားဘာမှအလေးချင်းမရှိသေးတဲ့ကျောင်းသားတပြည့်တည်းရောက်လာပြီဆိုလို့ရှိရင်ရှိဥစွာပကြီးကချက်ကြီးကိုပြရတယ်ပိတ်ကားကြီးဖြစ်ဖြစ်နာယံဖြစ်ဖြစ်ပေါ့လေဒီမှာဖရိန်ကြီးပေါ့ဒီမှာထောင်းရတယ်အဲ့ဒီဖရိန်ထဲမှာပကြီးကားချက်ပေါ့လေအဝိတ်ဖြစ်ဖြစ်ဘာဖြစ်ဖြစ်ပေါ့လေတစ်သားဖြစ်ချက်ဖြစ်ဖြစ်အဲ့ဒီဖရိန်ကားချက်ကြီးဒီမှာထောင်းရပါတယ်အဲ့ဒီတော့မှအခြေခံပေါ့လေပကြီးပညာသင်ပေးရပါတယ်ဘာဖြစ်လို့လဲဆိုတော့ပကြီးစေးရုပ်ဟာလေထဲမှာရေးလို့မရဘူးလေထဲမှာပကြီးစေးရုပ်ထင်အောင်ရေးလို့မဖြစ်ဘူးသူရဲ့တရားအခမ်းဖြစ်တဲ့ပကြီးကကြကြီးပေါ်မှာသာရေးလို့ဖြစ်ပါတယ်အဲ့ဒီပေါ်မှာသာသင်ပြလို့ဖြစ်ပါတယ်ဒါလိုပဲတရားထုတ်လို့တဲ့ပုဂ္ဂိုလ်ဟာအခြေခံသီလမှာဘာမှမရှိသေးပဲနဲ့ကံကံရည်ကျိုးမှမယုံကြည်သေးပဲနဲ့တရားအားထုတ်လို့မဖြစ်ပါဘူးဒါကြောင့်ခုနရှေ့ပိုင်းသီလတရားမှတစ်ဆင့်ဆက်ပြီးတော့သမာဓိလုပ်ငန်းနေကံကံရည်ကျိုးတွေပေါ့လေကမ္မတက္ကရာသမာဓိတွေဒါတွေရှိဥစွာမြတ်စွာဘုရားညွှန်ကြားရတာပကြီးကကြကြီးကိုရှိဥစွာပေါ့လေအမာကထောင်ပြတဲ့အနေပါပဲအမာကန်ထားတဲ့အနေပါပဲအဲ့ဒီသဘာဝကြည့်ပါခုကာလတချို့ကမ္မထာဌာနတွေဆိုရင်တရားအထုတ်ရလောက်သာအလေးထားပြီးတော့တီလာတွေဘာမှဂရုမစိုက်ဖဲနဲ့ဖြစ်နေတာတွေလည်းရှိပါတယ်ပြီးတော့ကောင်းကမ္မတက္ကရာတမာတိတိဆိုတာနားမလဲပဲနဲ့လည်းပဲလုပ်နေကြတာရှိပါတယ်အဲ့ဒါကတော့ဗနည်းနဲ့မှမဖြစ်နိုင်ပါဘူးလေထဲမှာပကြီးစေးရေးတော့ပကြီးရုပ်မထင်သလိုပေါ့လေအချိန်သာကုန်သာသွားမယ်လိုအပ်တဲ့ပကြီးစေးရုပ်တော့သင်ပြလို့မရဘူးပကြီးစေးရုပ်လည်းမထင်နိုင်ဘူး
The Buddha made use of an example to illustrate this order in which he instructs prospective yogis. It's the example of a student, an art student, who is desirous of wanting to learn up the art of painting, for example. Goes up to a teacher, to an art master, and if he is someone who doesn't have any sort of basic foundation in painting, then the master will first of all instruct him on how to make a frame and how to frame the canvas, to put up to stretch the canvas and frame it properly and neatly, so that you will have something on which to paint. As you know, it's not quite possible for artists to paint in empty air. One needs to have a background, needs to have a canvas or something to receive the paint impressions. So therefore, you can appreciate why the art master starts instructing his new pupil on how to make a frame and how to frame the canvas neatly and properly, how to stretch it well so that painting can be effectively done. In the same way, in the practice of meditation, there needs to be some foundation, a sort of canvas on which to stand, whereby one can develop one's concentration and wisdom. Just as it would be impossible to paint without a canvas or something to receive the paint, as it is futile and vain to make artistic strokes in mid-air without actually having something to receive the paint. So too, it would be very futile and vain to attempt to meditate without a firm foundation in sila or precepts, as well as right views with respect to the law of karma. Indeed, there are some meditation centers these days whereby no emphasis at all is given to purity of conduct, and where only meditation is taught, where emphasis is only given to meditation. In such places where there is no firm foundation of sila, of moral purity, as well as the absence of an understanding and acceptance of the law of karma, any meditative efforts would be done in vain. Nothing much would really come out of any efforts put into meditation in such circumstances.
Udinatagaro karaka puku karaka puku sara Vipassana alogo teke lute puku lo sura ba. Myaswa Phaya ye owara ko letwe jaja khan yu pi do Thila Thamari Panya khaw de Mekkin 8 pa a chin lan jaung ko Jyosa pansa ne phyaung myaung ji hyauk nede puku de.
Seems that this Bhikkhu Deva, when he was still a bhikkhu, had been a karaka individual. A karaka individual is one who really works. He was a worker. He was a hard and industrious worker. He had received instructions from the Buddha. He had received the Buddha's instructions and was trying really very hard, very sincerely, to realize his goal. He was walking on the Eightfold Path, activating the Eightfold Factors within himself.
Teke karaka puku sara tu ha sadama tete mho phu, atwe thama tete mho phu, ange thama tete mho phu. Teke yong ji ji ne yu ti ti ne si sat sat paw le. Shu mat nide puku lo di lo so lo de.
In other words, he was not a nominal yogi. He was not a yogi by name. He was not a theoretician. He was not a mere scholar. He was not a philosopher. He was not a a street thinker. He was not someone who just thought and reflected and got lost in his ideas. He was not one who indulged in dreams and fantasies and spent his time gazing very emptily at whatever objects that arose. On the contrary, he was a person who was very ardent and sincere, a real worker, one who walked on the Eightfold Path with utmost sincerity and total commitment.
သူဟာဝိပဿနာတရားတွေအထုထားလို့တော်တော်လေးအခြေကျနေတဲ့ပုဂ္ဂိုလ်ဆိုတော့မြတ်စွာဘုရားဝိပဿနာသုံးညတဝိပဿနာတရားကိုသာပဲစပြီးတော့ဟောပါတယ်သုံးညတဝိပဿနာဆိုတာတရားအထုတော်ဝိပဿနာဉာဏ်นี่တော်တော်ရင့်ကျက်လာရင်အမြဲပုံလေးတွေသိနေတော့မြဲတယ်ဆိုတဲ့အဖြစ်ကကင်းစိတ်နေတာဆင်းရဲပုံလေးတွေသိနေတော့ကောင်းစားချမ်းသာတယ်ဆိုတဲ့အနေအကင်းစိတ်နေတာသူသဘောတိုင်းသူဖြစ်ပုံလေးတွေသိနေတော့အလိုအတိုင်းဖြစ်တဲ့အတ္တကကင်းစိတ်ပြီးတော့တပြင်းနိစ္စတုကအတ္တဘာမှမရှိဘူး0ပဲရှိတာကတော့သဘောလေးတက်တက်ပဲရှုစရာလေးကလည်းပဲသဘောလေးရှုတာလေးကလည်းသဘောလေးဆိုတာပေါ့လေအဲ့ဒါလိုသိမြင်တဲ့ဥပဒနာညာကိုတုံညတာဥပဒနာညာလို့ခေါ်ပါတယ်အဲ့ဒီတုံညတာဥပဒနာညာကအစဟောတာမြတ်စွာဘုရား
Since he had been such a faithful yogi, a lot of faith and total confidence in what he was doing, applying that persevering effort in order to activate penetrative mindfulness in a very meticulous and continuous manner from moment to moment, one can perhaps regard him as a veteran. He was an old yogi, an old hand. And so the Buddha knew his background and started to instruct him on the void, on emptiness. Emptiness here, of course, refers to the insight that arises very spontaneously when one's practice is quite deep and matured, whereby one perceives emptiness in phenomena. That when one is able to see how mental and physical phenomena arise and pass away from moment to moment, one realizes its impermanence. One understands how empty phenomena are. They are devoid of any notion of permanence. One begins to feel also, to perceive in a very effective and significant way how these endless stream of phenomena are suffering. They are totally unsatisfactory, and one can understand its suffering nature by merely watching them come and go. At that point also, it may dawn upon oneself how empty these phenomena are of happiness, of satisfactoriness. True, again, at times one may see another aspect of this arising and passing away of phenomena. One realizes how empty they are of any self, of any soul. They are totally beyond one's control. There is no one behind it, and they just come and go of their own accord, faring according to the laws of cause and effect. One understands the emptiness of phenomena in the sense that phenomena are void of a self. So the Buddha started to talk about emptiness, the voidness of permanence, of satisfactoriness, and of a self.
Tunyata Vipassana ha Sana Sukkuma, Sana Sura Nunyana, Sukkuma Sura, Timhuira, Chonyanida. Nunu, Chojonya Clipsinida, Vipassana. Taga Belule Sura Vipassana a levain love body. You are being a yavai yavla. Lechi compoundani care. Pundanani Surale Baba Mishu. Pira Polare Ayo, Asale, so don't make nega solution, so by Matini Lave. Baba Mateo, Savine, Leva Mateo, the Yin goes so Jogianida. Eminale to Anida. Pira tiny the la yan, neither las Raleve, Mishu di Bima. Eriga Savido. Pundanani came in Mievoni, Sievoni, to what I do chip only. They shine. Vipassana level to Jaja tell her. Choose your eye lady ha, a light them, Bobo neither. Bore eye lady, sooner like video, my arrow. Tout out titty jeep shady. Did a yogi got so much heaven at Dali sickly never say chinia. Eriga Sabido, they with Chonyas of Jura. Eri Dego Pobido, Nunya Chonya de Tilosore.
Sunyata Vipassana is this observing or realization of the voidness of all things that occurs very subtly and very softly. It's a sort of vipassana that is extremely subtle, very fine, very refined. Perhaps one can appreciate how refined Vipassana is if one can recall one's own personal experience. Refined Vipassana occurs at the stage of dissolution, when insight knowledge into the dissolution of phenomena arises spontaneously. One begins to see how things vanish from moment to moment. There's a very rapid vanishing of phenomena. One is unable to see the beginning or the middle of how these mental and physical phenomena arise. There is just an incessant dissolution or vanishing of phenomena, one after another. Things become pretty quick and quite impossible to catch up with. During such a period, one begins to lose all sense of form. The body, parts of the body, your arms, your head, your legs begin to drop off. As you sit, things begin to drop off, and finally you are unaware of the body form, of the shape of your body. There is no body. Sometimes, even when one is walking or standing, the standing posture, the walking posture may not be apparent at all. There is simply a total absence of the shape or form of one's body. This is very subtle. this is quite subtle. This is just the beginning of subtle vipassana. And at times, the yogi may be rather bewildered, sitting there and watching all these phenomena arising, passing away so quickly, and being unable to keep track of each and every phenomena by labeling. At such a stage, it is not necessary to continue labeling. Labeling will naturally and spontaneously drop by itself. In fact, when there is such an increase in velocity of occurrences, such as there is this rapid dissolution of phenomena from moment to moment, what the yogi needs to do is just to settle back and allow the mind to effortlessly pick up whatever objects that are vanishing at that particular point. It will be impossible to label.
အဲ့ဒီတေဝိနုညဇ္ဇဖြစ်တဲ့ဉာဏ်ပိုင်းအစရောက်လာပြီဆိုရင်တော်တော်များများယောဂီတွေဟာလက်ချေကောင်းပုံသဏ္ဍာန်တွေပြောက်ပြီးတော့အရှုခံအာယုံရဲ့အစအလယ်ဒီအပိုင်းနှစ်ပိုင်းလည်းပြောက်နောက်ဆုံးတရရနဲ့ကိုယ်ဆုံးပြောက်ပြက်နေတဲ့အပိုင်းလေးလောက်သာတွေ့တော့နောက်ဆုံးအပိုင်းဆိုတာလည်းပဲမရှိတဲ့အပိုင်းလိုဖြစ်နေတော့မရှိတာတွေမှတ်နေရတယ်လို့မရှိတာတွေမှတ်နေရတော့ဖောတတာဟာကျဲကျဲကြီးနဲ့ယောဂီကအရင်ကရှုမှတ်ရတာကစီစီလုံးလုံးရှိတယ်အရသာရှိတယ်အခုတော့ဖောတတာဟာကျဲကျဲကြီးဖြစ်သွားပြီသူတရားတွေတော့ကြာကုန်ပါပြီဆိုပြီးတော့စိတ်ပြည့်အားငယ်မှုလေးတွေလည်းပဲဖြစ်တတ်တယ်အမှန်ကတော့ဒီဘိုင်းဟာအမှန်တန်ရှင်းတဲ့အပိုင်းပဲရှေးဥပဒနာဉာဏ်တွေကလက်ချေကောင်းပုံသဏ္ဍာန်နဲ့တွဲပြီးတော့သဘောတရားလေးတွေသိနေတာမျက်စိရဲ့သဘောပဲဆိုတာသိနေရတာဒီအပိုင်းကပညာတွေကျင်းသွားတာတန်ထာနာပညာပုံသဏ္ဍာန်ပညာတွေလည်းကျင်းသွားတာအစိုးပညာတွေလည်းကျင်းပြီးတော့သဘောတည်းလေးလည်းသိတာသိတန်ရှင်းတဲ့အပိုင်းဒီအပိုင်းက
When a yogi is able to experience such a rapid dissolution of phenomena from moment to moment, the characteristics of impermanence, of suffering, and non-selfness becomes very clear, very, very clear. And sunyata vipassana of the void, is much more subtler than this sort of insight. In fact, when a yogi is going through this stage of practice, it may be rather disorienting. The yogi had been able to note before objects as they arise and pass away, but now suddenly, because the beginning and middle of occurrences are not at all apparent, the yogi feels rather uncomfortable. There is an effort, of course, to try to be mindful, but everything seems to be falling away. Before you get there, it's gone. And before you get there, it's gone. The yogi can get pretty disappointed. What's happened to my meditation? I seem to be able to get everything so precisely, but now I seem to be slipping off into space. There's nothing by the time I get there, everything's gone. And he may feel that something's wrong with his meditation. He may feel discouraged and might be overwhelmed by such a situation. In fact, Sayadaw says this is a very, very important stage, a very pure stage of vipassana. Before one attains this level of vipassana insight, one may be able to comprehend and understand impermanence, unsatisfactoriness, and selflessness in a way that is mixed with concepts. We can, when one is watching the arising and passing away of phenomena from moment to moment, one is still not quite free from the concepts of body, of hand, of leg, from the concepts of form, of continuity, that seem to be a continuity of things happening. But come this stage of dissolution, it is very apparent that there is no continuity at all. Everything is dissolving so quickly that you know for sure that nothing is continuous. And on top of that, all concepts of form, of shape, fall away. And one is able to have a real and thorough, not quite thorough, but quite a pure insight into the impermanent nature of things, the unsatisfactoriness, and their selflessness.
ဒီဘက်ဝိပဿနာဉာဏ်တွေကအရှုခံအာယုံရဲ့ပြည့်ပုံလောက်သာသိတာရှုတည်တဲ့အာရမဏိကဝိပဿနာစိတ်ရဲ့ပြည့်ပုံမသိဘူးဒီတော့အရှုခံလောက်သာပြည့်ပြီးတော့ရှုတည်တဲ့စိတ်ကလေးရဲ့ပြည့်ပုံမသိသေးတော့အနိစ္စ ानु ပဒနာဉာဏ်ဟာစိက္ခာပတ္တကောင်းတိတ်မရောက်သေးဘူးဒီဘက်ရောက်လာတဲ့အခါကျတော့အနိစ္စ ानु ပဒနာဉာဏ်ဟာကောင်းတိတ်ရောက်လာတယ်ရောက်ပုံကတော့ပေါ်လာတဲ့အာယုံလေးရှုလိုက်လို့ရှိရင်အဲ့ဒီအာယုံလေးပါပြတ်သွားတာတွေ့တယ်အဲ့ဒီဟာကိုရှုတည်တဲ့စိတ်ကလေးပါပြတ်သွားတာတွေ့တယ်မူလပေါ်လာတဲ့အာယုံရဲ့ပြတ်ပုံလောက်ကိုတည်သွားတာကရိုးရိုးဝိပဿနာခေါ်တယ်နောက်ထပ်တစ်ဆင့်ထပ်ဆင့်တည်လိုက်တာတွေကဝိပဿနာလေးပါပြတ်သွားတာတည်လိုက်တာတွေကဒါပฏิဝိပဿနာခေါ်တယ်အရှုခံလည်းပဲပြည့်ပြီးရှုတည်တဲ့စိတ်ကလေးကလည်းပဲတစ်ခါတည်းပြည့်သွားတာတွေ့တော့အနိစ္စ ानु ပဒနာညာဓမ္မကောင်းတဲ့ရောက်လာတာတော်ကိုကောင်းလာတာဒီတော့ဘယ်ပေါ်မှာမှမြဲတယ်ဆိုတဲ့အစွဲဟာမရှိတော့တော်ကြီးကိုသိမွေးစာပြုလာတာ
Before one arrives at the stage of dissolution, during the earlier stage of arising and passing away of phenomena, one's insight is such that it is only able to perceive the appearing and disappearing of the noted object. The insight is not quite sharp enough, not quite matured enough to be aware of the appearing and disappearing of the noting mind. During the experience of dissolution, however, it is quite different. One can see the rapid dissolution of the noted object as well as the noting mind. Of course, this occurs very spontaneously without any sort of manipulation. And the normal perception of the noted object arising and passing away, especially passing away, is called Vipassana. It is the seeing directly to the mode of impermanence or of unsatisfactoriness or selflessness. But when one is able to perceive the passing away of the noting mind, this is called Pati Vipassana. It is called reflective Vipassana or recurrent Vipassana. This is a much more subtle stage than the earlier one.
Di kama shuziya le the bote shudi de sikriya le the bote sara lechi kaung pundana ni kin bi da tana shin shin li phit ni ro paramat po ro pinyat de nguk twa de lo di lo chan kan mya ma so shi ba lechi kaung pundana ni bi do thai ne ha ni tha de ha ni wa li da ma agara pinyat de da ni mashi ro
Since one's insight at this point is strong enough to perceive phenomena passing away so rapidly, not only the noted object but also the noting mind, one's field of awareness has only such natural phenomena as its object. One's field of awareness consists only of directly perceptible phenomena, mental and physical phenomena. There is the absence of any concepts at all. As was said earlier, this is a very pure and pristine stage of practice, free from concepts. When one is aware only of directly perceptible phenomena, concepts are completely lost. As the texts tell us, when paramattha becomes apparent, paññatti or concepts disappear. This, of course, refers not only to the concept of shape, like your hand, or your arm, your trunk, your torso, your leg, and so forth. This refers also to the concept of behavior, of mannerism. You don't even realize the sense of sitting, and the sense of standing, the sense of walking, not to mention the various parts of the body.
တချို့ယောဂီတွေဆိုလို့ရှိရင်ဒီလိုပုံသဏ္ဍာန်နဲ့အချင်းရာကြောက်တဲ့ပင်ရောက်လာတဲ့အခါလက်တူခြေတို့ခေါင်းတို့ကိုယ်တို့မှရှိသေးလားဆိုပြီးတော့မျက်စိဖွင့်ကြည့်တာလည်းရှိတယ်။ထိုင်နေတာဟုတ်မှဟုတ်ကဲ့လားဆိုပြီးတော့ကိုယ်လှုပ်ကြည့်တာလည်းရှိတယ်။အမျိုးမျိုးစမ်းသပ်ကြည့်တယ်။ပို့တက်ကြည့်တာလည်းပဲရှိတယ်။ဖွင့်ကြည့်မှတော့တွေ့ရောပေါ့ပို့ကြည့်မှတော့ထင်ရောဟောတာတော့တချို့ရုပ်တရက်ပုံသဏ္ဍာန်နေပြောက်သွားတော့ကြောက်ပြီးတော့လည်းပဲအရိယပုရိပါတွေလည်းပဲဖြစ်လိုက်တတ်တယ်။အဲ့ဒါမျိုးကတော့မလုပ်ရဘူး။ဆက်ပြီးတော့သာမှတ်မြတ်မှတ်ရတယ်။အဲ့ဒီမှုံမှွားမှွားလေးတွေလည်းပဲတည်းနဲ့ကိုယ်ဆုံးပြောပြတာလေးတွေပဲဆက်မှတ်ရတယ်။ဆက်မှတ်လို့ရှိရင်နောက်တော့အာယုန်နဲ့အတိဟာတွဲရပေါ့လေ။တွတ်ကလေးသွားပြီးတော့မှတ်လို့ကောင်းလာတာလေးတွေတွေ့လာတယ်။
Some yogis become so bewildered that they may resort to quite they might resort to some methods in order to sort of reassure themselves that they are still around. Suddenly finding that they have no sense of sitting, no sense of body, and they have no legs and hands and arms, they start to get a bit worried. Some people open up their eyes to see if they're still there. Others, they start to shake the body to make sure that it hasn't completely disappeared. And still others get so scared that they immediately jump from their posture. And of course, when such things are done, one's concentration is broken and form will return. Such things should not be done. Have trust in yourself. And if indeed there is a total loss of form, of shape, and even a total loss in the sense of posture, one should not at all be, one should not allow oneself to be scared or to experiment with your body, but just to continue your practice by watching all those rapid particles perhaps that are dissolving so quickly from moment to moment. And when one is able to do that, the speed and velocity of the noting as well as the occurrence of the dissolution will slowly increase and gain in momentum. Mindfulness will become strong and fast and very agile.
ဒီဘက်ကတော့တိမ်မွေးစားရှိတဲ့အပိုင်းလေးရှိပါသေးတယ်။အဲဒီလိုဆက်ပြီးတော့အားထုတ်သွားတဲ့အခါတစ်ဆင့်နဲ့တစ်ဆင့်တိမ်မွေးနုညံ့ချောညက်ပြီးတော့လာတယ်။အတိကလေးတွေကလည်းပဲထူးထူးခြားခြားတခါတည်းဖြစ်လာတာပဲ။အဲ့တော့နုညံ့ချောညက်တဲ့လောက်အသက်ရှူတွေကလည်းပဲတစ်ဖြည်းဖြည်းတိမ်မွေးပြီးတော့သွားတယ်။နောက်ပိန်နာလေးပြောက်သွားဖောင်းနာလေးပြောက်သွားထိုင်နာထိတာလောက်မှတ်ရတာတခါထိုင်နာပါပြောက်သွားထိတာပါပြောက်သွားတခါထိုင်ထိပါပြောက်သွားတော့အတိကလေးပါကြာလွတ်တိမ်မွေးတာဒီဘက်ကအဲ့တော့အလွန်တိမ်မွေးလုံးအားကြီးတော့ယောဂီဟာအသက်တွေပါလေးလည်းပဲရှူရမှမသိတော့ဘူးအမှန်ကလည်းပဲရှူလည်းမရှူတော့ပါဘူးဘုန်းကြီးဟိုစရုဒ္ဓဇံကားရောက်လို့ရှိရင်အဲ့ဒီအကြောင်းတွေနဲ့ပတ်သက်ပြီးတော့တော်တော်ကျေပြန့်ပြန့်ပြောမှာအဲ့ဒါလိုလွတ်သိမ်မွေးတဲ့အပိုင်းရောက်သွားတော့ယောဂီကအသက်ရှူရလို့ရှိရင်တည်တတ်တာပဲမဖြစ်ပါဘူးအသက်တော့ပြန်ရှူမှပဲဆိုပြီးတော့ကြောက်ပြီးတော့တရားလှုပ်လိုက်တာလည်းရှိတယ်အသက်ပြန်ရှူတာလည်းရှိတယ်အမှန်ကတော့တရားသဘာဝပဲသိမ်မွေးတဲ့အတော်ကြီးကိုသိမ်မွေးတဲ့အပိုင်းရောက်လာတာတော့မလို့ရဘူးအဲ့ဒီလိုလဲ
In fact, this is only the beginning of subtle practice. If one is able to continue practice, trying to activate mindfulness, or rather continuing or following the momentum of the mindfulness that has been developed, then one's practice will become much more subtle. It will become subtler and smoother. The objects also will become more refined. One's mindfulness also will become sharper and more subtle. Things may become so subtle that your rising and falling may thus disappear. You're watching your rising and falling, and they become particles, and they become movement, and they become much more and more subtle. And finally, there's just a whiff, and it's gone. And when it's gone, then one should note the sitting and touching. And sometimes, even the sitting and touching begins to disappear. At which point there is only consciousness, there is only the knowing that there is nothing there left behind. This is a very, very subtle stage. However, there are some yogis who, due to past conditioning, get very alarmed when they find that they have stopped breathing. Of course, everybody knows that death will occur very soon, once you stop breathing, people get shocked, and some people stop meditating for fear of death. Others start to breathe very heavily in order to get back their breath. And of course others do many other ingenious things. However, Sayadaw says that all these things should not be done. One should remain calm, and in the event of all these things vanishing, you should endeavor to note the knowing mind that is left behind. Sayadaw will deal at length, will elaborate on this stopping of the breathing process when he talks about the fourth jhana later on.
တော်တော်ကြီးတည်ဝေးသွားတဲ့အပိုင်းရောက်လာလို့ရှိရင်ယောဂီဟာဓဝါ6ပါးကထင်းလာတဲ့အာယုံ6ပါးနဲ့စပြီးတော့စိတ်ပြက်မုန်းစရာနဲ့တွေ့လဲပဲဒေါမနစဒေါသလည်းမဖြစ်ဘူးချစ်စရာနဲ့တွေ့လဲပဲဝမ်းသာဝမျိုးနဲ့ချစ်မှုဆိုတာလည်းမဖြစ်ဘူးအလေအလတ်ဥပက္ခကဝိရတိဆိုတဲ့အတိုင်းပေါ့လေအလေအလတ်ရှုနေတယ်ဘာဖြစ်လို့အလေအလတ်ရှုနိုင်တယ်လဲဆိုတော့တတိယသိတ်ကောင်းလာတော့ပေါ်ရလေးတွေဒီကုံနဲ့ကုံဒီကြောက်တဲ့ပြောက်လိုက်နေတာသမဉ္ဇညခေါ်တဲ့အသည့်ကလည်းပဲပါနေတယ်တတိနဲ့ပညာကအမြဲတမ်းပါနေတော့တကယ်တမ်းရှုမိတဲ့အာယုံပေါ်မှာရောရှုသိတဲ့စိတ်ကလေးပေါ်မှာရောတိမ်မွှေ့တဲ့တဏှာလေးတောင်မှမဖြစ်တော့ဘူးအခြားဒေါသအစရှိတဲ့ဟာတွေဆိုအထူးပြောစရာမရှိတော့ဘူးအဲ့ဒီခါမျိုးမှာစလင်ကုပက္ခာဆိုတာပေါ့လေဖြစ်ပေါ်လာပါတယ်အဲ့ဒီစလင်ကုပက္ခာအပိုင်ရောက်တဲ့အခါအဲ့ဒီယောဂီကိုယဟန္တာလို့တော့မှယဟန္တာရဲ့စိတ်နဲ့မချပါဘူးလို့တော့မှဂုဏ်တင်ချီးကျူးထားပါတယ်သို့သောကိလေသာကိုလို့ယဟန္တာလို့ဆိုတာတော့မဟုတ်ပါအဲ့ဒီခိုက်တန်ဒီမှာယဟန္တာစိတ်ဓာတ်နဲ့ညီမျှနေတာမဟုတ်လို့ယဟန္တာစိတ်နဲ့တူတယ်လို့ဒီလိုဂုဏ်တင်ချီးကျူးထားတယ်အဲ့ဒီအပိုင်အထိရောက်သွားတယ်လို့ဒီလိုဆိုလို့တယ်
As one makes further progress in one's meditation, and things have become so subtle, one's mindfulness and wisdom too becomes very, very refined. One becomes very, very calm and cool. One is staying in a state of equilibrium. It's a very equanimous state. And whatever object that may arise at any of the six sense doors, no matter if it be a pleasurable, lovable, enticing object, or a disagreeable and distasteful, unpleasant object, it doesn't really matter. The mind is so calm and so equanimous that everything is okay. Even if it's a very disagreeable object, the mind will simply note it as just like one of the many phenomena that arise and pass away. The mind, in fact, at that point is so well developed, is endowed with such a refined quality of mindfulness and wisdom that it becomes quite unshakable. Whatever that arises is okay. Even the mind itself cannot be an object of clinging at that point. Even the subtlest type of craving or attachment to good mental states or pleasant mental states will not be able to arise. The yogi at this point is said to be one who is endowed with the six-limbed equanimity. There is equanimity in respect of all objects that arise at any of the six sense doors, including the mind door. In fact, the scriptures tell us that a yogi who has attained to such a state of total equilibrium, or rather the mind of such a yogi at that point of time, can perhaps be compared to the mind of an arahant, of one who has completely uprooted all defilements. Of course, the yogi has not yet uprooted all defilements, but we are talking about that particular moment of mindfulness, that particular moment whereby this six-limbed equanimous mind appears.
အဲ့ဒါလိုအခြေအနေရှိနေတဲ့ဥပဒနာဟာဘယ်အထိသွားမလဲလို့ဆိုတော့အရဟတမေကပဋ္ဌာနာပူတံဆိုတာပေါ့အရဟတဖို့ပေါ့အရဟတမေရနိုင်လောက်တဲ့အနည်းဆုံးအကြောင်းပဲဒီလိုကြံ့ကန်ခြေကျူးထားပါတယ်
ဒီညာ How important or how significant is this level of insight, this very equanimous level of insight? Again, the texts tell us that this insight of equanimity will lead, or rather is the foundation for the attainment of the arahata path and fruition.
အဲ့ဒီလိုကာရကလက်တွေ့အားထုတ်ပြီးတော့တကယ်ကြိုးစားတဲ့ယောဂီအားအရဟတမေအကြောင်းရင်းဖြစ်တဲ့နုညတ်တိမ်မွေ့ချောညက်တဲ့သုံးညတဥပဒနာကိုမြတ်စွာဘုရားတို့ကဟောလေဟောတာရှိပါတယ်
It is said that the Buddha usually gives a discourse on this sunyata vipassana, on this vipassana of voidness, only to those yogis who have developed their meditation to that state of equanimity.
ဒီတော့မြတ်စွာဘုရားကဒီနတ်သားဟာတကယ်အလုံးလုံးတဲ့နတ်သားသီလလည်းမပြတ်သေးဘူးသူ့မှာကလောကုတ္တရာမဲ့တစ်ခုခုမရသေးတာတစ်ခုပဲဝိပဿနာကတော့တကယ်သိမ်မွေ့တဲ့သုံးညတဥပဒနာအဆင့်ရောက်တဲ့အထိအလေးအကျင့်ရှိပြီးသားပဲလို့မြင်တော်မူပြီးတော့ဥจุကောနာမစောမေကောဆိုတာနတ်သားဒီလူပြည်လောကမှာနေစဉ်ကအတုခဲ့တဲ့အကျင့်လမ်းစဉ်ဟာအဖြောက်မှာပဲတဲ့အဲ့ဒီဖြောက်တဲ့လမ်းစဉ်တိုင်းသွားပါဆိုတော့အဲ့ဒီတရားစာဟောပါတယ်
So the Buddha knew about this background, about the background of this Bhikkhu Deva. He knew that he had been very sincere and ardent in his practice and developed his meditation to that stage of equanimity, to that stage whereby he was able to comprehend very easily the discourse on sunyata vipassana, on the vipassana of voidness. And therefore, the Buddha told him, straight is the path that you had trodden. What the Buddha was trying to say is that the very path that you had developed, that you had walked on when you were a bhikkhu, the very level of insight that you had attained at that time will lead you to that safe haven that you want. Just keep on going. That was what the Buddha meant. This will be all for today. Sayadaw will continue tomorrow.